and open-mindedness. You support a host with no affiliations or convictions other than being brazenly blunt. You support humor at a time when laughter can break apart the darkness. You support action rather than simple talk. You also support yourself. You can do this by purchasing one or all of my 3 books, The Grand Illusion, False Prophets, and The Persistent Illusion. They provide resources and a battle plan to fight back against tyranny of all sorts. You can also do this by donating a few dollars every month to the support of this show, guests, and the effort and time I put into research every week. Please visit www.thesecretteachings.info. That's www.thesecretteachings.info for the books, and click the PayPal button to contribute to the front line of self-empowered radio. Our website, thesecretteachings.info. That's thesecretteachings.info. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/thesecretteachings. You can also find us on Twitter @secret-teachings. Our guest this evening doesn't need much of an introduction, Jordan Maxwell. Let's go ahead and give Jordan a call. If you're ready to go, Jack.
I am ready to get acquainted with the real hard truth.
The real hard truth, just like the introduction to the show. Let's see if we can connect with Mr. Maxwell here. And it looks like it is ringing. Hello, Jordan.
Yes, it's me.
Hey, how are you this evening?
Well, I think okay.
You think okay?
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough.
Alrighty. Jordan Maxwell, our guest this evening. Jack, my co-host. I'm Ryan Gable. You're listening to The Secret Teachings. Jordan, for most of our listeners, I'm sure that you don't need much of an introduction, but if you want to give a short background and what you're into these days, please go right ahead and do so.
Well, again, my name is Jordan Maxwell. For some 55 years now, I have been interested in the arcane knowledge of the world, simply meaning all the secrets of the world that have been kept from people. I just naturally gravitated toward the dark side of the world I live in, even as a kid, even as a child. I suspected there were all kinds of lies and tricks being pulled on adults, and adults were pulling it on each other and children. And so I've always been interested in things that other people don't even know exist. And in the last 30 years, 35 years actually, I've taken my work publicly. Before I started back in 1959, looking at all of these strange phenomena of the world I live in, governments and religion and commerce and all that kind of thing, and where did these things actually come from, and who started them, and who says that this is true and something isn't. And so I developed over a period of years, and I don't know why, I just began to develop a pattern recognition. And I didn't try to do it. It just came easy for me. I just began to see patterns in the way people act and patterns in the way people talk. And then I began to see patterns in commerce and government. And so, this was quite a few years ago. And so for the last 35 to 40 years, I've been professionally talking about pattern recognition and how the world is operating behind the scenes. And there's nothing, the world, I've said this so many times, I'll say it again, because the world has nothing to do with what you think it does. It doesn't operate the way you think it does. Nothing is what you think or what you've been told it is. The whole world is quite different than anything you have ever heard. And so that's why, as chaotic and crazy as the world may seem, it continues to operate every day, business as usual, no matter how much chaos and craziness goes on. It's because there is a secret world of operation behind the scenes. And so That's what I've always been interested in, the real story, the hidden story behind the world scene, behind what government, religion, commerce. The entire world is not what you think it is, and I've been looking at this idea and this subject for many, many years.
I think
So,
I started out quite similar, observing patterns and codes and connecting the dots. I would assume that many of us have started out in the same way, and you start to realize these patterns, you start to realize these codes, and you start to connect the dots, and you see that things are not as they seem. I,
that's right, boy.
I mean, I recall when I first started in radio about 6.5 years ago, about 6 months prior to starting in radio, so about 7 years ago, is when I first got interested in all of this. And you were one of the people that helped me to realize what was going on. And it's just amazing how 7 years later I'm actually able to talk to you. But the point is the connecting of the dots, the sets of patterns and codes we can recognize and we realize. That's what really separates us from the people that are proverbially asleep. People don't connect the dots. They see situations and events and people and places as isolated. And it's only when you connect and see that there's a relationship between them that the world
Yeah.
is much different.
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, when you're connecting the dots, lawyers will tell you, read the fine print and then sign the dotted line. The dotted line, the fine print. Well, yeah. If you take your ordinary check, if you have a checkbook, pull out your checkbook and look at your checks that you get from the bank, and at the bottom is where you sign your check. Well, that's a dotted line. If you look at it, it's a dotted line. So that's why they ask you to sign on the dotted line. But read the fine print. What do you mean, read the fine print? The dotted line is fine print. Get a magnifying glass and look at the place that you sign on your check, the dotted line, and you'll find it's not dots. It merely looks like dots because it's so tiny, but get a magnifying glass and you will see it's saying something. Those are letters. They're words, and you are signing over those words. You think it's a dotted line. No, it's actually telling you something, and you're signing on the dotted line, but you didn't read the fine print.
Is that on all checks, legal
All
documents?
checks, all checks. When you sign a check, you're signing a dotted line. Well, go get a magnifying glass and read what that line is saying. And then you will find out, how you're getting into trouble with banks and money and all that kind of thing because of what it says that you are signing on to.
Well,
So
banks
it's just interesting the way the world works.
banks were one of the first subjects that I got into, trying to understand finance, trying to understand the way in which loans worked and the Federal Reserve, and a lot of people got caught up in the Fed, and they lost a lot of the substance that was involved in that movement, I think, after a certain period of time. And when it comes to banks, Jordan, I think you probably know more than most. Banks are probably one of the most corrupt and controlling institutions going back to the most ancient of days, prior to the Templars.
That's exactly right, boy. It's frightening. It is absolutely frightening, and that's why I personally refuse to ever walk into a bank. I cannot bring myself to walk into a bank because it's like walking into a prison. It's the Gestapo, the SS, it's the epitome of tyranny, banks, and I know why. I mean, I understand it well. I've been looking at it for too many years. So,
It was bizarre to me during the Democratic National Convention. I don't watch any of this nonsense, this circus, but I heard that there were a couple of speeches at the DNC about how we should get rid of the banks or regulate the banks, and these speakers are speaking about ending banks in an arena called Wells Fargo. And that's just amazing to me. And people don't understand, these, let's say a bank sponsors an arena in this capacity. They sign a multi-million-dollar contract to stick the name of the bank up on up. Where does the bank get the money for that? Where does the bank get the money to send you these letters in the mail that says sign up today, we'll give you a free $500? They're supposed to be taking and keeping your money. They're not making money, are they?
Yeah, well, first of all, where do you find a bank? A bank is on the both sides of a river. They're called river banks. What does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency because your money is called currency because it's a current, like the ebb and flow of the ocean. So that's why banks are on the both sides of a river, and the river directs the flow of the currency. And so, we have words like the money goes through your hands like water. Actually, in point of fact, no, money is considered, but under international law, money is considered law. Under international law, money is considered water. So when we say money goes through your hands like water, no, that's true. Money is water. It's the cash flow, the liquid asset. You have liquidity, liquid. It goes through your hands like water. And so when you understand what money is and what the words that are connected to banking, and like I said, a bank, and you go back to where did the word bank come from? It goes back to the ancient Middle East when, what's the word? I got so many things I want to talk about tonight, but the word banking goes back to the word bench because in the ancient Middle East, as today, even in Cairo when I was there, people will sit on the streets with their goods that they're selling, and they will sit on these big pillows, and they will sell their things that they're selling off of a bench. And so when you stoop down to buy something, you put your money on the bench, and then they trade the money or give you your change or whatever. And so a bench in Latin is bank. And so you look at the word bank and look at a Latin dictionary, and it will say a bench. Why? Because the ancient Romans realized that you do business in the Middle East on a bench. And this is why in the courts, the courts can hand out a bench warrant for you. If you don't show up in court, they give you a bench warrant, which means it's the bank wants you. You were going to pay a big fine, but you didn't show up. The court don't care. The bank cares because you were going to pay hundreds of dollars in a fine, but you didn't show up. So the bank wants you, not the court. So that's why they issue a bench warrant. Bench is bank in Latin. So, the bench, the whole court system is set up for the bank. That's what happens. That's why you have people in the court system called attorneys. Goes back to a French word, attorne. An attorne was, in French, a legal term for someone who takes your property and turns it over to somebody else, and usually turns it over to the government. But so that's why we have attorneys, because they're turning over your wealth and taking your money and giving it to somebody else, usually the government. So it's interesting the way it's interesting the way government works and all of that kind of thing. It's all banking. It's all interesting words and terms. So it's a hell of a story, and it's a big one. We could talk for 8 hours and not even scrape the surface of this thing.
Yes, we could. Before we get any deeper into the conversation, Jordan, Jack is my co-host this evening. Jack, I wanted to bring you in so you don't get lost in the fold.
Yeah.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi there, Jack. Talked with you before.
Yes, and I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for humanity by taking the risks that you have and disseminating this information that's so important.
Well, thank you, and it's true. I have paid a hell of a price for talking about these things. Believe me, I've lost everything because of it, and I'm still at loss for all of it because there's just some very powerful people in the world that don't want this kind of information getting out. And I have put myself on the line and lost because of it, but that's who I am now, and I'm too old to change, so I just do what I do. And I figured if somebody's supposed to hear me, they will, and if they're not supposed to, they won't, so I don't care. Just do the best I can.
You know, One of the things I found interesting when you were explaining about how you can disseminate certain information publicly, but you have to be very careful of what you say publicly and how much other additional information that you do have to offer. And you might want to just explain to folks your research society and that website, because I think people might really be interested in digging into some of the information on that website.
Well, yeah, let me start by saying I was told quite a while back by some lawyer friends of mine that I have quite a few lawyer friends, and they're always giving me bits and pieces of information. But I come to understand that government is empowered to protect the people. That's the idea, is the government is there to protect the people, to protect the country. And so the idea being in law is that there is two facets of communication. There's public and private. So if you are in a private situation, like in a church, I don't care if you're a Klansman or what kind of group you're with, as long as you're in your own group, your own meeting place, or your own church, or whatever, you can say whatever you want about anybody and use any kind of language you please, as long as the people in the church don't mind. But you can say anything you want about anybody. That's private. It's in a private meeting place, and so you are protected. Your free speech is protected. But if you go out into the public now, onto radio and television, and now say the same things you were saying in your Ku Klux Klan meeting in the public, now they can come after you. Now the government can come after you because now you're attacking and you're saying things in public. And so I was told that, the kind of information I deal with, you might want to think about going private with your knowledge, because you're going to get ultimately into a lot of trouble talking about things that you're not supposed to know and you're not supposed to talk about. And so I, for many years, have just been putting out the best I can without harming myself, without getting myself in trouble. I put out, information that I feel safe that I can do and not get thrown in jail. But here now with the new arrangement we have in the American government, where if you say anything that makes any sense to anybody, you might go to jail because of it. In America, you can go to prison now if you know something and you're trying to help your fellow man. If you've discovered a way to end a disease and you want to help your fellow man, you will end up in prison. If you found out something that's going on, some kind of criminality that's going on, that's ripping off the public, and you talk about it and try and help the public, you will go to prison. That's the way America works today. If you know something of real value, you can go to prison, or worse. So if you happen by chance to know something that happened and you were there and you saw a murder happen and you were there on the spot and saw something, well, of course, in this country, you have a freedom of speech. And so I say, yeah, go on out and talk about it. Talk about what you saw last night and who did it and who shot it, who. Talk about it. And watch how fast you're going to find yourself dead. You're going to find yourself assassinated or something because, you know something you're not supposed to know. And so it becomes very dangerous in America to know anything of any real value. You can sit and talk about who you want to vote for president. You can talk all about what's going on as long as you don't know anything. As long as you don't understand and know what's going on and you have no understanding of the world, the way it works, you can talk all you want and you have freedom of speech. But if you know something you're not supposed to know, they may find you dead somewhere and where you committed suicide by shooting yourself in the back of the head 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that it's very, very dangerous in America today to talk to people about anything of any real value. It's too bad, but that's the way it is.
And I think it's just for people in general. People suffer from I think an overall form of Stockholm syndrome in a way. They identify with their captors. They identify with these belief systems and their faiths. And so when you contradict or ask a question that contradicts their belief and their faith, they attack you because they choose to defend it. And sometimes it's not even consciously. It's a subconscious reflex reaction.
That's exactly right. It's a reflex reaction. And it's called cognitive dissonance. The word is two words, cognitive dissonance, meaning when you hear something that you have never been told before and goes totally against everything you've ever believed, obviously the person telling you that is crazy. He must be out of his mind because you know better. And he's telling you something that's absolutely opposite of what you've always known and understood. And therefore he must be crazy. He's a lunatic, and you can report him to the authorities because he's telling you something that's obviously wrong. And it's called cognitive dissonance. Until one day, if you get smart enough, you actually find out, no, he was right and you're wrong. And what you thought you knew was not true at all. And of course, he's gone to prison for trying to help you. And so, the Bible's even talking about that. Be careful what you say to people because they'll turn around and use it on you and use it against you. So I've always understood that. I've seen it happen in my life way too many times. People will say, I said something, and then I got the cops on my door, and I got federal agents knocking on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I've already been there and done that. I've already had the knocks on the door at 3 in the morning. I've already had the federal agents, talking to me and basically saying, you better watch your mouth. And so I have come to the conclusion this is no longer a free country. You don't have any freedom to talk about anything free anymore. So I just understand all the dark secrets because I've been looking at it for 55 years, since 1959. And I've been looking at how the world really works, what banks really are, what the police department really is, what universities and colleges actually are, and where the words come from, where the terms come from. It's the catchphrases. My God, what a world of lies and deception and trickery. But if you wanted to talk about money and commerce, that's always good. Look up the word commerce in a law dictionary. It will tell you sex. Sex is referred to in law as commerce. That's the law. I didn't say that. Look up in a law dictionary. Look up the word commerce, and it will tell you the sex act is called commerce. It's a business, and it may be a shady business, it may be a bad business, but it's a business. This is why if you get married, you got to have a license. Why? Because sex is a business. So you have to have a business license. You can't do business without a license. And so when you're getting married, now that's a whole story. When you get married, you are a corporation. That's why when you die, you're a corpse, because you are referred to on the law as a corporation. And consequently, the girl you're marrying, she's a corporation. So now you got General Motors doing business with Ford Motor Company. Two corporations doing business. And you can do that as long as you pay your taxes and get a permit. Ford just can't go out and do business with a German company without letting the government know it. And the government lawyers know it, and everybody has to be in on it. The government's got to get, their 10% or 20%.
Well, Jordan, isn't that the quote unquote secret tax on everything? You have to have a license for a gun, a license for fishing, a license for hunting, a license for driving, a license for everything's has to have a license.
Exactly. We're regulated. We're not free. We're regulated.
That's right. Right. Yeah, like Dick Gregory said, you're not listening to the land of free and the home of the brave. You ain't free or brave. You need to shut up.
Well, don't you love, and I'm sure that you've seen this. Obviously, you've been doing this for so many decades, especially in America now, where you can be arrested. There are millions of dollars spent every year for SWAT teams and federal units to roll up to a family farm destroy livestock, destroy the crops, destroy the farm for raw milk, raiding health food stores, raiding people's homes for light bulbs. It's beyond belief. It's beyond an understanding to the logical, realistic notion of what this country's supposed to be. It's absolutely backwards.
No, I know. And a word you used. If you if you have a 2-story building and you're going to put a lot of weight on the second floor, like printing presses and all kinds of heavy equipment on the second floor, if you've got any sense at all, you'll get a building inspector and go downstairs and go up on a ladder with the building inspector and remove the tiles from the ceiling on the first floor and look at the foundation of that second floor to see if it's going to hold that kind of heavy weight. So what you're doing is you're standing under the thing you're going to build on. You're standing under the foundation you're going to build on to see if it's going to hold that kind of weight. So you're standing under to get understanding. That's where the word to understand comes from. You have to go beneath the surface. Don't just buy what somebody tells you. You better go back and do your homework and find out how this government really works.
And that's why in court, you should, when they ask you, do you understand the charges, you should always say no.
Well, that's interesting because the way the law reads, from what I've gathered over the years, hearing lawyers talk about it, when a cop asks you or anybody at the police or the court, especially a cop on the street, they ask you, do you understand? You know, I'm arresting you for this or that. Do you understand? If you say no, the law says that they can't do anything to you because you don't understand. You have to agree that yes, I know I did that. Yes, I'm guilty, and yes, I understand. But if you don't understand, the law says they can't do anything to you. So that's why they want you to say, I understand, because now they got you. Good. Well, now we can put you in jail.
And you're admitting to being under them.
That's right. You understand them.
So you acquiesce to the system.
So anyway, like I said, there's my first and only real love was theology, religion and theology. That's my first love. And from there, my second most high interest that I have in anything at my age, I'm almost 76 now. But there's only really two things in this world I'm really interested in, and that's theology and religion, and where religions have come from, what the real truth is about the religions of the world, where they have come from, what their words mean, and all of that. I've been looking at that all my life. And second, of course, is the UFO alien presence on the earth, of which there's no doubt in my mind that there's an alien presence here, and they are, whoever they are and wherever they have come from, they are the brains behind the human system that we live under. The human system of education, commerce, law, government, all the institutions that we live by have been given to us by a higher intelligence. We don't see it, and so therefore it doesn't bother us because we're so smart that we know everything there is to know about everything. And so if we don't see it, then it's not here. Well, you can bet your ass it is here. There is a profound presence of dark forces on this earth which are not of this world. I know I've seen them. I've already seen the ramifications of what is actually going on behind the scenes, where the religions of the world have come from, where the great philosophies have come from, and where all of the demonic depravity that's now gripping the earth is coming from. And so there is an extraterrestrial connection to all of this. And if you don't take that into consideration, you haven't gotten anything. You're just playing with the outside. You haven't been inside yet.
Well, Jordan, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, let's continue to get into theology, religion, and the UFO alien presence. How does that sound?
Yeah, well, and of course, I have a lot of stuff to talk about on money and commerce too.
Sure, we'll get into that as well. You can stay as long as you'd like tonight. JordanMaxwellShow.com. Also, the Jordan Maxwell Research.is. Both of those websites are linked up on our website, www.thesecretteachings.info, facebook.com/The Secret Teachings. Our guest this evening, Jordan Maxwell. I'm Ryan Gable, your host. I'm also joined by my friend and co-host, Jack. We'll be right back. Have you missed an episode of The Secret Teachings, or do you prefer to listen during the day rather than late at night? Then subscribe to the program and get access to our full high-quality archive with timeless subjects and great guests. Visit www.thesecretteachings.info, click the Donate and Subscribe tab at the top of the page, and become an initiate today.
Author, researcher, and radio host of The Secret Teachings, Ryan Gable, has put together a massive encyclopedia that is sure to provide even the most novice reader with an introduction to the ancient aspects of modern mysteries. The Grand Illusion addresses who controls the world and provides information on how this can be done by the hands of the few, from exploring the hidden history of man through religious texts and ancient artifacts that rewrite history and science to the nature of reality. The book examines powerful hidden influences, their use of symbols, and their control of food, the environment, medicine, media, education, and more to control humanity, from extraterrestrials and paranormal phenomena to massive energy rituals such as the 2012 London Olympic ceremonies and September 11, 2001, events that reshaped the global energy grid and humanity's vibratory frequencies. The Grand Illusion is what author Brad Olson calls a tour de force of esoteric subjects, and what author Mark Booth describes as an extraordinary work on behalf of the forces of light. You can find his books by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info or searching The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception on Amazon.com.
Hi, this is Brad Olson, the author of Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses, and Future Esoteric, The Unseen Realms, and you are listening to The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable.
Author Brad Olson has re-released one of his most important books titled Future Esoteric, The Unseen Realms, 2nd edition. In this highly informative work, Brad examines the metaphysical nature of reality and the storyline of what is not being told to the mass majority of people, from ET contact and free energy to mind control and superhuman abilities. To get a copy of the work that won the 2013 Best New Age Book from Pinnacle Book Achievement Awards, you can visit www.thesecretteachings.info or cccpublishing.com.
We have been conditioned to conform to what is popular, conditioned to accept what is considered normal, and conditioned to repeat what we are told is the truth since birth. It's time to stop, cast off the shackles of perception, and empower ourselves. A great place to start is by listening to the Secret Teachings radio program hosted by Ryan Gable, airing multiple nights live from the occult and alternative history to health and the paranormal. For more information on content and airtimes, visit www.thesecretteachings.info. That's www.thesecretteachings.info.
This is David Icke from davidicke.com, author of The Phantom Self and The Perception Deception, and you are listening to The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable.
Welcome back to the Secret Teachings radio show. I am your host, Ryan Gable. I'm joined this evening by my friend and co-host, Jack, his website messenger of .info, our website, www.thesecretteachings.info. Our guest this evening, for a majority, if not all of the show, Jordan Maxwell. He has a couple of websites as well, JordanMaxwellShow.com, and his other website linked up on our website as well, so I don't give out too many URLs. Again, you are listening to The Secret Teachings. Jordan Maxwell on the line with us. We were talking about theology and religion and the UFO alien presence. Before we get back into that, Jordan, we do have a call on the line. It looks as if we have Brad. Brad, you are live on air with Jordan Maxwell.
Hey, Ryan. Hi, Jordan. How you doing tonight?
Just fine, thank you.
Excellent.
I have to echo Ryan's sentiments by saying you've been a great inspiration for the next generation of researchers, myself included, and we've been big fans of your work for many years.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's
I
nice
know
to
you
know
do.
somebody cares.
Oh, we do. We do more than you know. And as Ryan talks about on his show often, we see that there are many symbols in the world that give us sometimes even subconscious triggering. I wonder if you could go into that a little bit as far as what are the biggest knee-jerk symbols that you see pulling people's strings.
Well, my God, there's so many. Like you said, they're everywhere. I mean, but there's so many symbols that we see every day and take for granted and have no idea what they mean. I could give you 100 of them, but right off the top of my head, in Washington, D.C., you have the Washington Monument, which is an Egyptian obelisk. And most people, don't know that that's an Egyptian symbol, Egyptian obelisk. And what the obelisk represented was a male erection. And it connects to the female ovaries, or the Oval Office. And so every day, the president is sitting in the Oval Office with the female ovaries, looking at the male phallic, which is the Washington Monument. And that's why he controls the life of the nation. And so there's all kinds of sexual symbols, especially sexual symbols, are everywhere. Religion in particular, all three of major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, are crammed filled to the brim with sexual symbolism that you have never been told. You have no idea in the world about how pervasive sex is in all three major religions. And so, oh my God, well, that's a story for another time. But yeah, it's too bad that symbols are everywhere. And I've said so many times, if you go to China, you better learn to read the Chinese symbols, because if you're on a bicycle or a motorcycle or driving in China, you don't know how to read the symbols, you're going to get run over. Why? Because you don't know what you're doing. You can't read the symbols. And if you're in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago and you go into bad areas of the city and you see the spray painting on the wall, especially in Los Angeles, and you don't understand those are not just people tagging. They're not just guys and kids tagging to mess up the walls. No, they're telling you something. Certain colors and certain words mean something. If they catch you inside that area, wearing a different color, you can be killed. So people need to understand symbols are very important. Stop signs are symbols. You don't know what it means? Well, try running one. And so, it's amazing how much people don't realize how much we look at every day and don't know where these symbols have come from. And
Jordan, did you see in Washington, D.C., you mentioned the Washington Monument, this huge phallic symbol. On the winter solstice, December 21st, the tip of that Washington Monument, the shadow of it, penetrates the elliptical oval park in Washington, which is the female vagina, and impregnates for the sun to be reborn once more.
That's exactly right. And so it all has to do with sex. And oh my God, we could talk for hours on that subject of sex and religion. And classic example, I don't want to get off into it because there'll be another 5 hours just on that. But Moses goes up into the mountain and received the 10 Commandments. Well, we always have the pictures of the movie star with Charlton Heston playing Moses coming down from the mountain with the two big plates and the two big stone tablets. Well, in point of fact, if you go back to the biblical reference words, go get the big Bible dictionaries, encyclopedias, and do some research on the 10 Commandments. First of all, they weren't called the 10 Commandments. They were called the 12 negative confessions. Later on, the Jews gave us the 10 Commandments. No, originally the 12 negative confessions. And they came from Egypt. So the whole idea of the 10 Commandments was Egyptian.
They come from the Book of the Dead?
That's right, exactly. And so, but anyway, Moses comes down from the mountain with the two stones. Well, in Hebrew, the two tablets of stone that we call the Ten Commandments were called the stone tablets, or the stone testimony, a testimony of the stones. And you look that up, and you become aware that the stones were the testes, the testicles. So they were called testy stones. They were stones of the testimony. Stones of the testimony are the two testicles. And this is why even in the ancient Hebrew, and probably still today in the Knesset, in Israel, when one Jew brings another Jew, his brother Jew, into court, in a Hebrew court, you were required to hold your testicles when you are testifying, because that's where the word test comes from. It's from testicle. So you're testifying against your brother Jew in a court of law, so you hold your testicles. That's why we say they got you when you go into court, by the testicle, because you're going to testify. And therefore Moses comes down from the mountain with the stones of the testimony. And the old ancient Jewish reference works show you that and tell you that Moses came down. It's a symbolic way of saying he came down with the stones of the testimony, which were the testicles. And and the Bible reference works, Christian Bible reference works, say that the stones that were brought down were two small round stones that you hold in your hand, that they were not big plates and stone plates. No, the Bible reference works, encyclopedias of the Bible will tell you, no, there were two round stones that you hold in your hand, hold in one hand. Well, what does that sound like? And so you begin to see, well, there's a lot of sexual stuff in religion, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and that's why you have all of this stuff going on with sex in all three religions.
Jordan, do you see it as benevolent, malevolent, or a combination of both?
I see it as ancient sex worship, period. That's all it's ever been. All three religions are based on sex worship. Christianity is worshiping with the sun, sex worship, and the sun and sex, while Judaism is worshiping. Judaism is an eclectic religion. It's made up of 2 or 3 different religions. That's a whole story. We could talk for hours just on Judaism. Where did it actually come from? What does it actually mean? What are the words, and where did it come from? When you find out there was no Moses, Moses never lived. There was no Abraham. There was no Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's always God is always, in all ancient religions, God was always a triune God. And in Hindu was Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. In Egypt, it was Osiris, Isis, Horus. Christianity is Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. In Judaism is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, always triunes, always a 3. Why? There's a reason why. That's why there's a reason why there are 3 major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Why 3 major religions? Because it always goes back to the triangle. It always goes back to the pyramid, the 3 points of the triangle, 3 points of the pyramid. Talking about symbols, if you go into any major public building, restaurants, hotels, anything public, the men's room will always have a triangle on it, and the women's room will always have a circle on it. And people going in and out of the bathrooms every day, never realizing the men push the door open and it's got a triangle on it, and women going into the restroom with a circle on it, never realizing that's the same symbol that's on the back of your dollar bill. Think about it. On the back of your dollar bill is a triangle, and there's a circle around it. And then you find out that the circle is connected to Stonehenge. It's the sacred circle, the Stonehenge. And Stonehenge is connected directly to, if you draw a straight line, a laser line, from the heel stone in Stonehenge out the front door of Stonehenge and draw a straight line around the earth, it hits the pyramid of Giza. And that's why there's a pyramid on the back of a dollar bill, because it's connected to Stonehenge. Stonehenge is the magic circle, and the pyramid is the triangle on the men's door, on the men's restroom. Why a pyramid on the men's restroom? Because the very word pyramid, P-Y-R-A, pyra is fire, mid is middle. Pyramid means fire in the middle. That's what the word means, fire in the middle. Well, that's where the fire of sex is in the middle of the male and female. It's in the middle. So it's a pyramid, the fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Remember, fire is connected to sex, and fire is connected to the pyramid. And that's why it's a phallic symbol, a male phallic symbol. That's why it's on the doors of men's restrooms. Women are connected to the sacred circle. My God, I mean, we could go on for hours.
Yeah.
It also ties into the third chakra too, doesn't it?
That's
Jordan?
right. That's right. There are three is very important in all the esoteric, symbols and religions of the world. But anyway, so when we get to, I was going to talk a little bit about commerce, because, like I said, you look up the word commerce in the dictionary, especially in a law dictionary, it would tell you commerce is sex. And this is why you have to have, you have to understand where these words come from. And let me just go through some of this very quickly, because a lot of people never thought about this. We say things like money goes through your hands like water. Well, then we talk about money being liquidity, liquid assets, or you are awash in debt. Think about all the words that we use in relation to water. And so if you go to court, you're in hot water, and somebody's going to have to bail you out. Because you're in hot water, they're going to bail you out. Why? Because you're flooded with bailout money, or your bank account has dried up. You have an offshore account because you're drowning in debt. But we were running a tight ship, and we don't want you to make any waves or rock the boat. And so the whole idea is on you on board the citizenship, and so you're laundering dirty money in the mainstream. You have shipping departments. The bank will levy your account. And don't worry about it, because one day your ship will come in. And it's very interesting in commerce. The word mer, M-E-R, mer is a word for the sea, for the ocean, like mermaid. And so mer is the sea. And the sea has always been an enchanting, with the waves coming in and going out. We say it's just an enchanting sea. And so the enchanting, well, chanting is a form of music. That's why you have a bank note. And so you have a bank note, which is the chanting, and that's why you have a merchant, because it's the sea and the chanting sea. So we have merchants. And if you're going to get enchanted, you're going to go into the store, you're going into the entrance, because you're entrancing. You have been entranced, so you go in the entrance. And so therefore we have scholarship, sportsmanship, courtship, hardship, airship. Incidentally, all ships are female. Rocket ships, sailing ships, it doesn't matter. Whatever kind of ship it is, it's female. Why? Because she is delivering a product. It's the male who in sex, it's the male who M-A-N, manufactures. But it's the female who's in labor, producing the product. So she's delivering the product, but the man has manufactured. And so we're talking about the reproduction of human life. And it all has to do with water, because you're 70 to 80% water. So that's why we have an heirship and friendship and censorship and companionship and partnership, leadership, dictatorship. And so the whole idea, incidentally, anything that's really important to you, that you hold as very important and have a very heavy worth, it's called WORTH, worth. And so if you have something that's really important to you, that's worth a lot, then you have something called worthship. And that's where we get the word worship. No, it's not WOR, it's WORTH, worthship. And so, it's really an interesting, when you begin to break down the words and where all these terms have come from, and your money is water, and your house is underwater, and you're laundering money, and the bank is going to levy your account, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a strange world that we live in, and it works because, and the reason why all of this works so well is because nobody knows what I'm talking about. Nobody understands what we're saying, that it's all been put together far back as the Roman Empire, this whole dark system of money and banking and checks, and all of this stuff goes back thousands of years, and people thousands of years didn't understand it. The people today in America don't understand it. There's only a handful of people on the earth who really know how this whole monetary system really works.
Well, Jordan, isn't it sort of similar to, let's say, a few thousand years ago, the average person or most people were illiterate and they couldn't read, they couldn't write. And that's
right.
Very similar to what we have today, where most people, we can write and we can speak, or at least we think we can. We think we understand it. But in a way, from what you're explaining, we're no more literate than we were 1,000 years ago.
That's exactly right. We're equally as ill-informed, unread, and ignorant as we were 2,000 years ago. We still don't get any of it. We don't know where anything comes from. We don't question anything. We don't know anything. It's just amazing how adults today have no idea. People going to college and come out and they're going to graduate, not realizing the word graduate comes from two words: to gradually indoctrinate. Gradually indoctrinate, and then when you're through, you graduate. And it's a 12-step program. Alcoholics have a 12-step program. And so does the sun have a 12-step program. It starts in the morning. It walks through the sky at 12 steps. So it's a 12-step program. Jesus had 12 apostles, right? Why? Well, for the same reason you have 12 jurors in a jury system. They're going to help bring the truth to light with the light of truth. All of this is just toying with the real story. The real story is the profound, dark, evil world that has been foisted on us at birth. We come into this world not understanding anything, and we go out understanding even less. And very few people have ever stopped to wonder, where did this or that come from? I mean, you go to the post office today, and you say you're going to the post office, but in America there is no such a thing as a post office. Incidentally, it used to be called the Pony Express hundreds of years ago, when they run for 10 or 15 miles on a horse as fast as they could, right into this little town, and tie the horse up in front of the bar at a post, and get on a new horse and run. It was called the Pony Express. Well, when they ride into town, they tie their horse up at the post, and so it became known as the post office. No, it's just a post where you tie the horse up. So today, people say they're going to the post office. There is no post office in America. America has no post office. There is a United States Postal Service, but not the post office. Long time ago, about 50 years ago, the post office was done away with in America. There is no post office anymore. There's a United States Postal Service. And it back in 1970, I think it was, where the post office was done away with in America, and no longer, there is no post office. And so the United States Postal Service is now it was founded by the military. So when you go into any post office, or what you call a post office, it's actually a military building. You're under military law when you walk in there. You just don't know it. And that's why if you were drafted, or if you want to join the the military, you can go into a post office and they will they will swear you in. You can swear before a person in the post office, and why? Because the post office is run by the military. So it's a military installation. The post office is gone. Back in 1970, it's gone. So all of your, anything you're sending through the postal service today, that's all military. So if you're sending anything the military doesn't want, you're going to have a knock on the door by some very powerful people from the U.S. military. And so,
Jordan,
it's just amazing how much people don't know that and how this world works.
Is there any relationship to what you're saying about how we don't really understand words and where they come from and what they actually mean, and this parallel in the last few years of this politically correct fervor where you're not supposed to say mom or dad, that's offensive, boy and girl is offensive, brown bags are offensive. It's another way to control language. What do you think about that?
That's Nazism, communism, Marxist. It's called cultural Marxism. Look it up in a dictionary. The word is cultural Marxism. It's a Marxist communist, Soviet communist system where you no longer have man and woman. That's interesting because, on your identification, on your driver's license and all your ID, it will say male or female. If you look on something called the Styles magazine, Styles book or Styles magazine, that's published by the United States government printing office, and the British printing office has the British Styles book. And what that Styles book is the words which are used in government, what they actually in fact mean, not what you think they mean or what it sounds like it means. No, what they actually mean in law. It's called the Styles magazine or Styles book. And you look up the word male and female, and it will tell you in the Styles magazine, the government printing office will tell you that male and female is a term for animals. Pigs, animals, dogs are male and female. But a man or a woman, well, first of all, you are not considered a man or a woman, because man or woman, when you were born, are feminine and masculine. You either have a masculine child or a feminine child. That means that they are a woman or a man, not male or female. And so male or female is for an animal. And that's why you hear people talking about racism, and this is a racism, that's a racist. They haven't got the faintest idea in the world. They can't read, so they can't go to a dictionary and read. But if you go to a law dictionary and look up the word race, R-A-C-E, you will see, in point of fact, race does not mean what you thought it meant. Race means animals, a particular kinds of animals. That's a whole story in itself, when my God, we could go into that one for hours about the different kinds of animals you have on the earth, and they're all of a different race. So race means an animal stock. A stock of animals is a race. That's why we have a human race. That's why people are talking about how they're being treated like dogs. No, you are a dog. That's why they're treating you like an animal, because you are an animal. You're not masculine or feminine. You're a male and female. Look on your ID. And if you've got a Social Security, you look on the back of your Social Security card, you will see a series of numbers on the bottom. They're usually at either black, blue, or red. That's why they're going to beat you black and blue. And if they're on mine, it's in red, because it used to be many years ago, all the numbers on the back of a Social Security card are red. And why? Well, because the numbers on the back of a Social Security card represent your blood on the New York Stock Exchange. You are a human resource on the stock exchange. And so that's your blood number. That's why it's in red.
So it's a blood number and asset number.
That's right. Well, you are a human resource. You're not a man or a woman. You're a male and female. You're a human resource. And so they can use you. If they can't use you, well, then they'll fire you and throw you away. So you're just a human resource. You're not a man or a woman. And so, again, this all goes back to the way our system of government is, our system of religion, how we view law. I mean, at the very founding of America back in 1770s, the big question among the founding fathers of this republic, the big question was Rex or Lex. Is it Rex Lex or Lex Rex? Lex is a Latin word for law, L-E-X, law, or Rex, R-E-X, which is king. King is R-E-X, law is L-E-X. So the question of the founding fathers was, is the law going to be king here in America, or is the king going to be the law? Is the king our law, or is our law our king? So is it Rex Lex or Lex Rex? And so it started out with Lex Rex. Our law was the king in America. Now, of course, of 1871, the king is now our law. So now it's Rex Lex. I don't know. It's I'm just amazed, and I say that all the time because I truly am amazed at how much people just don't know about how the world works. I mean, I hear all these people, lots of people talking about Obama should not be president because he was not born here. I understand what their concern is, but it's ludicrous on the face of it. He doesn't have to be born here. And that's why when he says, "I don't need to be born here," that's why he can falsify his birth certificate, because he really, by law, does not need to be born in America.
Well, Jordan, wouldn't that be the same with our perception of God-given or human innate rights as well?
Well, you got that right. That's exactly right. And the reason why Obama does not need to be born here, he's right when he says that. And it's because we started off as a republic back in 1770s. We started off as a republic. And of course, in the republic, you had to be born here to be a president in the republic. But after the Civil War, there was a civil war here in America where the South went to war against the North. The North went to war against the South. And thousands of men died, bloody deaths in that Civil War. It was very, very bloody. Even the historians talk about it was the most cruel, bloodiest war, one of the worst in history. And that was here in America. Well, after that bloody, murderous war, our Civil War, after that was over, we here were anything but united. So we're not United States anymore. The North hates the South, and the South hates the North, and the powers that be ended the war, but we're not united anymore. We're not ever going to be united anymore. There ain't no United States. Well, we're all here. We all have to live, so they came up with a new idea. All right, we want to continue to think of ourselves as the United States, but we're not united. We just killed each other for hundreds of thousands of bloodshed. So we just killed a lot of people. So we're not united anymore. But what we have to do is got to make do. We got to do something because everybody is still here and they want to eat. And so they decided to, in 1871, to create, after the Civil War was over, they created a company, a corporation. And they called the corporation the United States Corporation. It was a corporation founded in Delaware. It was a Delaware corporation. Well, hell, anybody can create a corporation. You can too. But when you form a corporation, you get certain perks and certain things you can do now, but you have to live by corporate law, international corporate law. And so you can't do certain things that other people can do because you're a corporation. And so that's why today all U.S. citizens are a corporation. And
And that's why Obama is the CEO, so he doesn't need to be born in the United States.
so no, you don't have to be born in the United States to be the head of a corporation. I got Japanese friends who are heads of their corporation right here in Los Angeles, but they're not born here. They don't need to be. They didn't say they weren't the president of the United States of America. No, they're just Japanese who happen to be the president of their corporation. Well, hell, anybody be black from Africa could be head of their corporation here in Los Angeles as long as you pay your taxes. They don't care.
Yeah,
you don't have to be born here to be the head of a company.
Unless we understand that about 1871 and the establishment of the corporation, I think it really makes everything beyond that irrelevant.
Oh,
and
God, yes.
Every discussion, argument, and debate is irrelevant.
No, everything is totally irrelevant. If you don't understand, we're not the United States of America. It was a company. It was formed as a corporation called the United States Corporation. And it was stipulated in that corporation papers in Delaware that if you are working for this corporation, that you are an employee of a foreign corporation, because the corporation is not connected to the United States of America at all. It's a foreign corporation. It's called the United States Corporation. And this is why if you come across the borders as a corporation, if you come across the borders illegally, we don't care if you're illegally across the border. We don't care about that. The corporation doesn't care. What we care about is that you're an undocumented worker. That's what they're concerned about. As long as you get documented, you can come in here all you want, but as long as you get documented, there's a reason for that. Because if you don't get documented, that means you're coming into the corporation. You are slipping in late at night into Sears and working there and making money, but you're not officially an employee. Therefore, when the corporation finds out that you are working there and they didn't hire you, you just came in and started working and they thought you were an employee, and then they find out you're not an employee, then the corporation can put what they call a lien. It's called a mechanic's lien. They can put a lien on you, and therefore you are now known as an alien. No, they put a lien on you. Therefore, you're an alien, and so you are now under a lien. It's a fascinating subject when you understand the words. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about in commerce and liens. Suppose you are a painting contractor, and I call you to paint my office, and you come and give me an estimate of $100 to paint my office. When you are through with the job, the way it works is that you give me then a bill. And the bill tells me what you did, how much it cost, and everything, and how much I owe you. Okay, so when the job is done, you give me a bill for $100, and you expect to be paid. All right, so I reach in my wallet and I pull out a $100 bill and give it to you. So you've been paid. No, you haven't been paid. You gave me a bill for $100. I gave you a $100 bill. If you had given me a bill for $20, I'd give you a $20 bill. Get it? If you had given me a bill for $10, I'd give you a $10 bill.
Want to become an initiate of the secret teachings? Did you miss an episode, or do you prefer to listen during the day rather than late at night? Subscribe to the Secret Teachings radio program and get access to our full archive of high-quality streamable and downloadable shows, our insider video vault, and more. Whether you are a novice or master, subscribe to The Secret Teachings and empower yourself. For more information, you can visit thesecretteachings.info.